and find a mentor, find somebody that you can trust with it. And it's not a weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to speak out against things that's untoward.
Hey there and welcome. We're telling stories here with Bertie Roux, and in all the things that we've gone through, I identified something I'm very interested in. And look at this man. Can you believe he's been bullied when he was younger? Tell us about that experience. And you know, we were just talking about hindsight. What does that look like in hindsight?
It's difficult things to talk about that come from your past, but the interesting part of it, those days when you were bullied, you never knew you were bullied because there wasn't a word. At that stage, I didn't know the word. That's called bullying. You just found yourself on the wrong end of somebody's fists or
Someone's
anger,
behavior, manipulation.
whatever the case may be. You got up bad in the morning. I mean, rather than kick the dog, he give me a club. You know, and those kind of things happens. And that's many years back.
Bullying is not necessarily physical.
No.
Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's emotional.
Absolutely. I think we are now going through stages of worst bullying ever. Because it's so easy to bully people using electronic media. Because now the impact of that is even bigger. On the emotion of the person. We can dabble into that, but I think the statistics today of people that take their own lives, young people that take their own lives, and we're not talking people in high school, we're talking people in primary school, kids of 9 or 10, 11 that take their own lives. Can you believe that? I mean, that is shocking. It's totally unacceptable what is happening because the trauma is so intense. And their lives have ended. Whilst back those days, we're literally talking 55 years ago. Bullying was just you on the wrong end in terms of your physical size. So as a late developer, I was always the smallest in the class. I mean, I really looked 4 or 5 years younger than I was in class. So I was always the smallest in the class. So you end up being on the wrong side. And in my research and what I look at nowadays when I look at people, I realized how short people has to go through life fighting all the time. And it's not necessary that they are still being bullied or that they have ever been bullied. It's just a matter from a sheer physical size, they are looked down on. And people that is naturally bigger, and that happens at school with the early developers, that they find themselves bigger than everybody else, and they have to make certain that everybody understand that they're stronger and bigger. Not quicker, but stronger and bigger. And they enforce that on you almost as if it's their right. Okay, so then there's bad things about it because you're gonna accept it and develop an inferior complex, or you can say, I'm not going to accept it. May still be bullied, but I'm not going to accept that that's going to change my life. So it's once again a conscious decision, and at that stage of being in grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, you are extremely small. Now, how mature would that individual be in his thinking? And that's why it gets so bad today, because people don't talk about it. The kids don't talk about it. They go through it and they live through it. And now the electronic media comes in, and Facebook and WhatsApp and Twitter and all those kind of things that they use to belittle people. How do you protect yourself? Now, we got laws about personal, POPI Act of protection of personal information. But what about me? This person. So it doesn't necessarily protect me necessarily there, but obviously there's laws in that. So, yeah, and I've met many people in my life, successful businessmen, tall people, important people, highly successful sports people. If they relate their past, they've gone through exactly that. Because I said it in an earlier viewing that the late developers have to be competitive. Therefore, they need to develop the skills to live their life almost in competition or in balance with the early developers. I can relate. When I was very young, as I said, I played against and became a friend at varsity, but he was about 4 years older than me at school. And he played a lock for the Springboks. In order to tackle him, there was only one way. I would need to time as he runs that I can tackle him when both feet, legs of his, is together. Because I am too small to cover that if he opens his leg. The span of his yard is just too big. So he developed those skills to come in with weight and with a perfect timing. So, yes, it wasn't nice at that time. Lots of tears, lots of frustration, and it was primary school and it went through to high school, different people, same story. And teachers, if they were aware of it, I suppose let me give them credit and say they weren't equipped to handle it. So you had no support. You had to fight your way through it and make the best that you could about it. So you just didn't end up in the friendship circle, so you withdraw yourself. Later on you caught up and sometimes you even became friends with those bullies of early times. Because I mean, the bullying, me receiving the bullying, it's not good. But actually the bully has got problems of his own that catches up with him in life. And so both parties suffers in their futures. As they go into adulthood and whatever. He or she never knew how to handle themselves other than to enforce their physical size or whatever on somebody else. And so they didn't learn how to manage them. So their emotional intelligence and emotional development that we care for today basically never developed. So they didn't acquire those skills. And you need to have that today in business. Because you're not getting bullied, but you have to stand your ground. And all the time.
Okay, Bertie, so let's say you're on the receiving end of the bullying. Today we know it's a lot more intense. There's lots of different levels, different kinds, different than in your day. But if you find yourself in that situation, what are some of the things that you can do about it?
I think the most important is that those that are being bullied should not stay quiet. So they should be encouraged, and the system need to make certain that people are encouraged to speak out. That they can understand that bullying can take different forms. And it's not just based on severity, but it takes different forms. From a school point of view, we need to educate our kids. And it's one of the principal things that we need to teach our children from day one. Is that something is not right. Something that you don't experience at home and in your friendship circle, family circle. That is not right. You don't feel comfortable that you speak about it. You don't try to work through it. Nobody expects you to have that experience at an early age, especially. So you need to speak out. And in that case, it applies to high school throughout your life. Because at the office, there's a lot of bullying taking place. And we're not talking about favoritism. We are talking about bullying, where people are on the wrong end of somebody's tongue and some manager or supervisor's action, or even a colleague that bully you into start withdrawing and pulling out and eventually saying, I had enough, I resign. And so you need to understand that you need to speak out. So from an early age, if you're on the receiving end, speak out about it. Because the moment you retaliate, and as men, it normally comes down to to proving that I'm macho too. Even though I'm small, I'm going to try to defend myself whichever way I do. And unfortunately, we also have the situations where kids at school nowadays kill one another. Bring guns to school or a knife or whatever. Why? Why preempt bringing a weapon to school? Because they're bullying. Because they believe that there's no answer to this and never going to stop. They have to take an action and stop it themselves. And they take an extreme step. But what we need to be taught and understand, speak out. And find a mentor, find somebody that you can trust with it. And it's not a weakness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength to speak out against things that's untoward. And we are talking about bullying, so we stay with the concept of bullying. And as I say, it's cool. It's everywhere. It takes place where somebody else consider him or her the stronger sex, and you are on the receiving end, and that's not acceptable.
So one of the things I thought of, have you ever met, how many bullies did you have, or was it just one?
No, in primary school, I basically had, if I can recall, because it's fresh in my mind, I've seen a picture recently and I identified the individual again. It was basically one.
Okay.
Because the others of us were sort of friends and so on par. It's just this one that had an inferiority complex now that I look back at it because of his size. He was really fat and overweight.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Did you meet this person again later in life? You said you saw a photo of him.
It's just a photo of a reunion that I called for, and a reunion which is probably about 50 years in the making. Later on, and not really. No, I haven't. And at high school, I was bullied by some of my brother's classmates, which was a year older than myself, and I also haven't met them. It's fortunately. I think there's people that maybe realize at a later life and then go back and would apologize because somewhere along the line, if you realize that was what I did, because I was immature too. So I need to get closure. So meet up with those people and apologize. I think, fortunately, I can go look back and saying, I think I came out of it better than I went into it. So I've learned from it. It didn't impact myself, but yes, it did make a difference in terms of how I felt of myself, in terms of was I mature enough to come forward to do things and offered my services. I was always almost like an introvert. You pulled yourself out of everything and didn't take those leadership positions because you just felt something amiss. That matter of self-belief, because the impact, if I can use the word self-belief, is the impact of the bullying on you is your self-belief goes somewhere. Because why would they choose me? I did nothing to them. Why would they choose me? So you start second guessing who you are and what you're all about. So you can develop this enormous inferiority complex that can take over your life until one day maybe you meet up with somebody that will help you to put that in place and put it behind you.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Can you talk for a minute to the person that's in that situation, who is being bullied? What do I do in that situation and how does the future look? It sounds like you said that you came out of it and you're better and you can deal with things.
I think those days, we're talking literally 50, 55 years ago, it's something that probably happened, but nobody cared about it. They didn't take cognizance of it, really. I mean, I would say there's
Wasn't so
children's
serious, yeah.
just naughtiness and, you know, whatever the case may be. So it didn't matter. So it wasn't inflated. It was there. So, and it wasn't deflated. So it was there. But I think where we sit today and the impact it have on the individual, because it's not just you are behind the toilets there, you were physically abused by being hurt and bumped around and hit with a fist and whatever. Nowadays, it's in the open, and the impact there's literally, potentially millions of people that can witness and experience what you're going through. You're on the wrong end of it, and to fix it is possibly impossible. So if one look at that, then you're saying it is so much more difficult to manage bullying now than it was before. So all I can therefore say is that we must be aware that when something happens that makes you uncomfortable, that you speak up about it. Talk to somebody. Just find somebody and share that creates this uncomfortable within you in terms of a relationship with somebody. Because I mean, sexually abuse is a form of bullying as well. So just speak up about it. You don't try to understand why you're bullied. Just speak about it. It makes you uncomfortable. Come to the fore. Talk to people about it. How can we manage it? Because then we can help you. Because maybe sometimes those people, as I say, they have the inferiority complex. So they are trying to get a relief valve by transferring their discomfort to somebody else. And it becomes almost like a domino effect. So we need to impact on it. And that's all I can say. You need to get to the root cause of it, but you need information. And somebody needs to share with it. Don't keep it to yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with that individual. So speak up about it early so you can address it.
So when you say speak to someone about it, is that in a counseling situation? Yes. Do you speak to someone in authority and saying, listen, this is what's happening? Do you tell a friend? Where do you go with your communication?
I mean, we've got these phone dial numbers that you can phone when you're in discomfort, which is not just there for people that is lonely, people that feel suicidal and need support. It's people that cannot handle with the situation now, and it's all about, once again, speaking up. So I can't go, tell you who to go to, but I'm saying go to people that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, a relationship that you've built with somebody, so that you can learn to understand what it's all about and how to address it. Because once again, everybody will handle it differently. Because if we come back to your brain profile, how you would handle that will be different. In terms of your thinking preference, because that's also linked to. Because my self-belief and my own personal ego and my own personal identity. So that's basically all I can say. I mean, there's psychologists that can help people with it, but I mean, the person that is being bullied, why should that person have to go to a psychologist other than build their self-belief? Because if that situation is breaking them down, that they don't believe that they exist anymore, and that's why they take their own lives. Why? Exactly because it's how they feel, and it's terrible. And once they've taken their lives, there's nothing you can do about it, and everything's surface. And so, why didn't they speak up? The question is, why don't they speak up? It's because there's nobody that we're close enough to share these things with. And I think that is where we need to have, and schools have got counselors, I mean, companies have got HR departments, and just speak to somebody. Maybe you've got it completely wrong. You know, it is a perception that you might have, and then you must put it into perspective. Otherwise, you can start believing it is there, and it doesn't exist. So the person that is that's the reason that you feel this way doesn't even know it. So that's also possible.
There you have it. Have you been bullied at school? I'd love to hear your story. Tell us what happened and what do you What did you get out of it? What did you realize in hindsight after the fact? Did you meet with them afterwards? What was that interaction like? We'd love to hear your story. Share it with us below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.